Now move on to the one of the most exciting part, the panel discussion, which will help us understand and address some of the questions that often come to mind about the future direction of gut microbiota and probiotic science. We would now like to invite Professor B.S. Ramakrishna, Director, SIMS Institute of Gastroenterology, Hepatobiliary Sciences and Transplantation, SRM Institutes of Medical Science, Chennai, India, to moderate the panel forward and introduce our panelists.
Invite our panelists. Dr. Shashikaran, former director of the National Institute of Nutrition, Hyderabad, and a key member of the food FSSAI, and particularly involved in nutrition. I think we'll have Dr. Shashikaran's bio data up here. Dr. Prakash Halami, Chief Scientist and Head, Microbiology and Fermentation Technology at CFTRI in Mysore. Dr. Ajay Balla, Director and Head of Gastroenterology and Hepatology at the Fortis Hospital in Noida. And Dr. Sharad Gopalan, Senior Consultant Pediatric Gastroenterologist and Hepatologist at Rainbow Children's Hospital in New Delhi, and the President of the Nutrition Society of India. And Ms. Ishi Khosla, a clinical nutritionist and an entrepreneur, and the founder of the Celiac Society of India. So this panel discussion is titled Future Directions of Gut Microbiota and Probiotic Science. Can I have the slides, please? Yeah. And we'll have it on full screen. All right, and you've seen the panelists here, distinguished panel out here, to talk about what the future is like. So some things we didn't have 25 years ago, some things which have happened in the 25 years, we have food delivery, anything that you want at home in 10 minutes. You can look at your phone and navigate your way across the world, anywhere, wherever you're in the world. In most places, you can do that. That's something we didn't have 25 years ago. You have joint replacements, this medicine. I mean, you can see this person doing yogasanas. And joint replacements have become so commonplace, even at extremes of age, that it's really made a huge difference. And we have, in the last year, heard that rectal cancer can disappear with medication, totally. So these are things, the world is really moving very rapidly. And the question that I have to the panelists will be that please look into your crystal ball and tell us what you think the world will be like in probiotic science in 2050. That's 25 years from now. So the regulatory, so I'll start with Dr. Shashikaran. So we'll have a round of questions, and if we have enough time at the end of it, then we might come back with questions from the audience. So we know that the regulation currently depends on very fairly stringent standards in terms of production, in terms of what is included in a probiotic product, and health claims. So what changes do you see, Dr. Shashikar? Will regulators allow things like genetic characterization, metabolomics, and computational methods? I mean, we heard a lot about AI today, even in this young investigator session. Will they use that to decide health claims? And is there, we have national standards. Are there going to be international harmonized standards for regulating probiotics? And how will the regulatory bodies look at personalized medicine?
Yeah. Thank you. And they're extremely interesting questions, because the one thing which moves the slowest in our country is regulation. So when the science is moving fast, the regulation rarely keeps pace with it. And as you have said that 25 years from now, what regulation will be is we are hoping that it will be something better than what it is today. The present day regulations were based on ICMR guidelines prepared on probiotics, which we released in 2008 under the leadership of Professor Ganguly. That was the basis for the regulations. But the regulations were not foolproof, and we already have a lot of issues regarding several aspects. So now, when it comes to changing regulations, it is usually done by a group of scientists, and they look for a lot of evidence. And based on the evidence, only the regulations are made. Now, whether it's based on genetic characterization, metabolomics, or computational methods, etc., it again depends upon how the panels actually view what is called as evidence. At the moment, the evidence for any regulation is based on scientific studies or clinical studies. So usually basic data or animal-based data are rarely used for framing regulation. And therefore, very often they insist on clinical studies being done to generate that particular kind of regulation. And especially when the product is making a claim, a health claim, then there is definitely needs to be a clinical study. Even all the genetic, computational, etc. information will only form some background evidence. The ultimate proof of the pudding is in the eating, and therefore the human study, a well-controlled, well-designed study, becomes imperative. And then, of course, will it be harmonized with international standards? Yes, it's already we have harmonized with Codex standards. The Codex is the international standard which all countries agree upon. If there are no Indian standards, we could also generate our Indian standard. For example, RDA for vitamins. If we were to have an RDA for probiotics, or RDA for prebiotics, and then the regulator will adopt the Indian RDA. Wherever that kind of information is absent, then we go for the Codex regulation. If the Codex is also not there, then it's entirely based on the published evidence of that particular day. And the last one, of course, is whether will probiotic biotherapeutic products be licensed for personalized medicine. In fact, the regulation does not have any role on personalized medicine. Regularizes only for a generic one which applies across the country. So personalized medicine, of course, it would have said entirely on the clinician or the dietitian to devise that, but it should anyway fit into a regulatory framework which today doesn't exist.
So will personalized medicine then go to the drug controller?
It might. It is more likely it will go under the drug control rather than the food-based.
Okay. So thank you, Dr. Shashikar. And I'll probably move on to the next one because we'll come back to these things. We already heard a little bit about postbiotics. In fact, so the initial sessions today also had things about postbiotics in terms of microbial products being used rather than live biotherapeutic products. I'll call on Dr. Prakash Halami to enlighten us exactly on what are postbiotics. Are there postbiotics in commercial use currently, and where do you see them in 2050?
Thank you very much. At the outset, I thank the organizer for inviting. Yeah, what do you think from about the postbiotic? In fact, the talk by Mr. Kato made my job easier. Where Lactobacillus casei, the exopolysaccharide producing culture, has a stress resistance. So postbiotic actually has been defined in 2019 by International Scientific Association for Probiotics and Prebiotics as a preparation of inanimate microorganisms and are their components. This will exhibit the health benefit. So these postbiotics can be from the gross microorganism or the probiotic organism, inactivated microbial cells, metabolites produced by them, components of the cell wall, then cell lysates, vitamins, and of course, which we are seeing the short chain fatty acid, cell-free supernatant, and more commonly used is the exopolysaccharide. This actually comes under the postbiotic molecule, fruit preparation.
One of the very basic ways in which probiotics work is through the innate immune system, right? And so innate immune system just senses different components of either the bacterial wall or some bacterial nucleic acid or something, depending on which receptor it goes to. And this is really what modulates immune function. So are any such products, let us say bacterial nucleic acid or viral nucleic acid, available currently in commercial form? Do you foresee that coming into clinical use?
Exactly. There are actually such a 4 products which I could see in the literature. And most of them are actually patented. One is the Epicor, a Saccharomyces cerevisiae metabolite, which is exclusively used as a food supplement. And this works for reducing the intestinal symptoms as well as the mucosal defense. This has actually the constituents like protein, fiber, polyphenols, antioxidants, vitamins, and the polysaccharide which they have reported is the beta glucan and mannose-specific. This is actually being sold in the market, available actually in the market. Another one is actually Beta Via, a Kemin company which actually sells, and this is from the algal based. Again, this is also the beta glucan. The algae is the Ingena gracilis, and this works actually for the immune system, the gastrointestine, as well as increasing the good microflora also. Help for this healthy gut barrier and again the urinary tract infection. This is being sold by Kemin, and then Epicor is actually available also as the product. There is another formulation by Edims, ECI, EC1, and EC1 actually is the lysate of Bifidobacterium longum and reported for the gut health and used for IBS system as well as reduces the TNF alpha and take care of Clostridium difficile infection. This is just a inactivated cells of Bifidobacterium longum probiotic. The last one I came across with one formulation is Cytofina, comprises of the Lactobacillus and then Bifidobacteria. This is being sold by, I heard, a probiotic lysate tonic, useful for the intestinal dysbiosis as well as strengthening the immune system and known to promote the beneficial bacteria and also has a function for the bowel regulation. The last part, which is shown there in the screen with reference to what will be the postbiotics market after 25 years. So we see by 2031, the postbiotics will be almost the market size of $3 billions. And presently it is with a compound growth rate of 6.8. India actually has a very good jump from 14.8%, because we use the several organic as well as Ayurvedic product as a dietary supplement. And Nutralite is one such formulation being used for the bone health and immune system. These are actually the information as of now on the postbiotic available.
So you feel that this is likely to expand
Yes,
significantly? Thank you. We heard a bit about fecal microbiota transplantation. Now it's everybody in the GI world is trying fecal microbiota transplantation, which is, as you know, Dr. Balla, that this is very unfocused. So the only recommended indication for it is recurrent Clostridium difficile infection. There is a role maybe in ulcerative colitis. You know that several groups are using it for their patients with UC. It's also tried in other GI conditions, alcoholic hepatitis, IBS. And then there's a huge call when people keep calling and asking, can you do this for my child with autism? In CKD, can you do it? In IgA nephropathy, can you do it? In diabetes, obesity, and so on. Alzheimer's and Parkinson's joining the list now. Now, we also know that new probiotic formulations have come. So this is a probiotic formulation which is given rectally, which is to prevent Clostridium difficile infection. It's sold as Prebiota. And then you've heard of this thing called VOST, which is an oral formulation. It's basically Firmicutes. These are spores of those which are collected from healthy people and marketed in the US. So my question to you, Dr. Balla, is, do you think probiotics can replace fecal microbiota transplantation? Do you think probiotics will be used in the form of enemas, colonoscopic infusions, or oral capsules?
I think in the last 2 days, there's been enough which has been talked about probiotics, how they are going extensively into all forms of clinical medicine. It's not the gut microbiome alone. It's managing everything, your neurological part, your cardiac part, your metabolic syndrome. So probiotics have a lot of potential, and there's no doubt about it. Fecal microbiota transplant, FMT, is currently, as per the WHO guidelines world over, it's only recommended for recurrent CDAD, recurrent CD-associated diarrhea, not for anything else. But yes, there is a lot of role of the same. But the delivery system of FMT is the tough part. It needs to first collect it from a group of healthy volunteers, and the delivery, if it has to be done through a Ryle's tube delivered into the small intestine, or through a colonoscope delivered into the colon. So the delivery of FMT is what has been the issue. But yes, with new things coming out, where the delivery module can change, things will simplify. There is a huge risk factor, to select a patient ideal donor. There's nothing like an ideal donor. We have a different microbiome. The microbiome in the West is different. So getting a capsule from US imported here, delivering it rectally may not be effective because their microbiome is different. So it's going to be a difficult exercise. It's going to be more tailor-made according to your region. So that is what would happen eventually. Yes, it's going to happen, and it will take some time. And regarding other diseases, I guess trials have been done. I have also done it for alcoholic hepatitis, done it for ulcerative colitis. But yes, if you look at it, they're all based primarily because we have got some guidelines for probiotics. It's not for FMT, but for probiotics. Probiotics, are recommended even for simple things like it prevents oral thrush in elderly if it's given adequately. It's a level 2 recommendation. You use probiotics for NASH. We use it plenty. the same thing is going to overlap into the other part. Obesity management, again, it will be there. WGO has recommended a level 2 evidence of probiotics for MHE, for minimal hepatic encephalopathy. It is supposed to be at par with lactulose. So I guess FMT is going to be just an extension of the same use of probiotics, but with such careful selection of donors. And of course, we're not going to be getting it from abroad. It has to be innovative. It has to be done from our country because our microbiome is going to be different.
So the question was, do you think probiotic colonoscopic infusions can replace FMT? Because this year there's a publication which shows that in some settings it can be done.
Yes.
Where do you think the world will head? I mean, but probiotics will obviously be much cleaner in terms of handling.
Yeah, I guess it's going to be like after we get to know what is the exact mixture. If you look at it for pouchitis, there's a mixture of 8 different forms of bacteria, which if used in the right proportion works very well in these patients. Similarly, it will be, like I said, there would be more, we'll need far more work to see which are the exact mixtures. Probably will be safer. It will be safer. It may work very well. But we need to exercise caution. Yesterday, I remember taking a call about the pancreatitis part, and I asked, are you going to recommend it? And I was so happy to hear that is one point where the speaker said, no, I will not recommend it because I do not use the same. I don't recommend it. So we need to exercise caution. Of course, use of probiotics, if you know the right strains, right mixture, would be ideal. But there's nothing the right mixture as of now, which we know about.
So a lot more work to be done out there for the entrepreneurs in the audience here. So going on to Dr. Sharad, so a lot of probiotics are now used in children. In particular, I think allergy and so on has emerged in the West as a huge problem right from the pediatric age. And I'm sure in the urban areas in India also, it's emerged as a significant problem. So, Sharath, what do you think in the next 25 years? What changes do you see in probiotic use? Is it going to be therapeutic, preventative? Where would you use it, and what would you?
Thank you, Dr. Ramakrishnan. I would answer your question in 3 parts. Firstly, when it comes to pediatrics, we've been always focusing on specific disease entities, like do probiotics help in acute diarrhea, acute infectious diarrhea, or antibiotic-associated diarrhea, or neonatal necrotizing enterocolitis. Rather, we should probably focus on the alteration of the gut microbiome as a separate entity itself. Any GI condition, be it diarrhea, be it constipation, be it celiac disease, be it irritable bowel syndrome, be it inflammatory bowel disease, they all have 2 things, either chronic inflammation or dysbiosis, or a combination of both. So if you are addressing dysbiosis, when you look at any entity like treating constipation, we focus on treating the disease entity, but we also need to lay emphasis on the dysbiosis aspect and modify the gut microbiome. Now, how much hard evidence is there for the specific role of specific strains of probiotics in dysbiosis? How long should they be used? This is an area which has aroused a lot of keen interest in pediatrics, but we are at no stage of recommendations regarding the dosage, but we have certainly know that certain specific strains of probiotics do help. Most studies which have been done have looked at durations as long as 6 to 8 weeks of continued supplementation. The rationale being you modify the gut microbiome over a period of time, making it beneficial. So that is one area we should focus on, dysbiosis rather than specific disease entities. The second area is we should probably start moving away from clinical indications for probiotics to a much larger platform of potential implications of potential benefits in public health. For example, we have several probiotics. Over the past 2 years, there's been a lot of information on probiotics enhancing plant protein absorption, as well as absorption of specific minerals like calcium, selenium, magnesium, potassium, and zinc. Whereas, in fact, Dr. Bahel had made a presentation recently where he had mentioned that there was a large study done in North India and Palwal, where they fortified iron with a probiotic and found out whether it enhances iron absorption. And they found it does not. It was a large study. So when it comes to iron, there are problems. But the evidence for calcium, selenium, and other minerals is quite promising. So this is one area we could look at. Can we improve nutrient, gut bioaccessibility, and bioavailability? And by giving less, we make sure more of it is bioavailable to the tissues. Can we look at that aspect also? That is the second way. The third thing is what Professor Jyoti Tamam has repeatedly been mentioning. We have got a whole rich information about functional foods. And this is an area which deeply interests the Asia Pacific region. Not only India, all the East Asian countries are deeply interested in this area. For example, you have foods like kinema, you have natto in Japan, you have chikongyong in Korea. The time has come probably, as Dr. Talwar also mentioned, we should start looking at clinical trials in humans, in the pediatric as well as adult population, using these functional foods. Right now, they are largely animal experiment based. But if we can translate these into clinical trials in humans, then, as Dr. Shashikaran mentioned, things about regulation and all other aspects and its potential utility in clinical practice becomes even more meaningful. Thank you.
So do you think the Indian Academy of Pediatrics, somewhere in its statements, might include something on probiotics and in terms of promoting health in infants? I mean, you're talking about dysbiosis, and this goes back to all those theories of child growth, the reason for linear growth retardation being dysbiosis, and whether that can be corrected and so on.
Certainly, but the challenge here is the term health promotion is a very broad term. When we say promoting probiotics for promoting health, and we want to come out with a recommendation there, we have to be very, very clear what specific things are we looking at in terms of health promotion. So that becomes important.
So you need community trials to show that. Right?
Yes.
So we'll move on to Ishi Khosla. So basically, I think you are interested, and we heard a bit about the leaky gut hypothesis, that intestinal permeability is at the heart of a lot of chronic ailments that afflict humankind. And so there's a lot of probiotics out there which are sold for the leaky gut. A lot of people come to me saying, I'm not feeling good, chronically, I'm depressed, or whatever. Actually, I know that you're into this and you advocate lifestyle changes and diet changes. So there are, there's sites like these, antibodies, where, probiotics to control food allergies. So what do you see in terms of not just allergies alone, but the broader field of intolerance, which we talked about earlier? Where do probiotics come in this, and what do you see happening in the next 25 years?
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank Dr. Neerja and Yakul for having me. And this is a subject of huge interest for me as a clinician. A lot of conversations have happened over the last day and on probiotics with respect to disease and the gut. But my area is about how the gut is impacted with food and how probiotics in the microbiome get impacted. And I would just like to, first of all, distinguish between the two words of allergies and intolerance. Allergies are more acute and more IgE mediated, whereas food intolerances are IgG mediated. And a lot of my patients just use the word allergy and get these tests done. So that is something which needs to be understood better. And essentially, I would just quote Dr. Alessio Fasano. He is the chair of Boston Medical Center. He's a pediatric gastroenterologist. over 1,000 papers he's published. And he has said it very, very strongly that all diseases, almost 300 medical conditions are connected with the leaky gut. And one of the biggest contributors to the leaky gut is wheat protein. He said it very plainly in a publication. It's in, I think, published in Nature and the Journal of Gastroenterology a few years ago. And this is something which I personally also see in my practice. And use of probiotics along with elimination diets, removing inflammatory trigger proteins, which could be from the grains or from dairy, has almost magical, miraculous turnarounds, which surprise me too. Be it autoimmunity, be it digestive disorders, or outside the digestion, we look at conditions like respiratory conditions, mental health, depression, and diabetes, metabolic health, neurological conditions, literally everything. And when Dr. Alicio Fasano said, what are the 300 conditions? He said, they go under different names: diabetes, heart disease, metabolic disease, hypertension, autism, cancer, etc. And so, yes, this is something which is the future as far as I see. The use of probiotics is absolutely critical to repair the leaky gut, to restore the tight junctions. And today we also have laboratory testing for certain proteins which are so implicated with the leaky gut, which include zonulin, occludin, and antibodies against LPS and Candida. These are all also now going to be available in our country. So these markers are certainly there. And zonulin as a protein, and zonulin and occludin are triggered by gluten in wheat and some other grains, as well as bacterial dysbiosis. So yes, apart from that, we know that they have an immunomodulatory effect, and things like lactose intolerance we can treat through giving lactobacillus bifidobacterium. And so the use, and like I think yesterday there were sessions, Dr. Pratisha also mentioned that early infancy and pregnancy, we can modulate the risk to allergies in children early in life. So the applications are only widening, and the use of specific strains is what I see as the future, meaning as we go deeper into the understanding of the microbiome, as so many deliberations have happened in the last 24 hours on this, that we would be able to target customized and personalized solutions with specific strains. And I do see that as a future. And also, I was reading somewhere, desensitizing the allergen before it causes inflammation would be something potentially very, very useful and is expected to happen. So yes, it's extremely promising, and it seems to be the way things should be changing for us.
So I think about 2000 years before Alicio, Hippocrates said that all chronic disease begins with the gut. So
Yes.
in a sense, with our understanding, that might be true. But so you advise the people who come to you for counseling, you advise them to avoid grains. Would you advise them probiotics?
Yes, almost all my prescriptions when I see a problem is accompanied by a probiotic, be it a digestive disorder or be it leukoderma, vitiligo, they're all accompanied with probiotics. But we are at this point not in a position to give specific strains. So it's shot in the dark, whatever we think works for us and is available easily. Very rarely have I given a very specific strain because they're not even so easily available. And I'm going to take this opportunity, if you allow me to share. I mean, I've been sharing it with my colleagues, a case of an 18-year-old boy who came to me in August with an HbA1c of 15. And this boy was 108 kgs when he came to me. What I did was we gave him probiotics. We gave him an elimination protocol, which also meant change of grain from wheat to millet. And that's all I did. And this boy had been prescribed insulin by his treating doctor. So he did not want to go that way. So he preferred to follow the diet. And his inflammatory marker CRP was 7+. He had extremely low levels of vitamin B12 and was deficient in vitamin D as expected. Hemoglobin was excellent, 15. And within 3 months, he came back in November with an HbA1c of 6.3. And just now in February, he's just come back with an HbA1c of 6 without no drug, no insulin, and no change in weight. So he continues to be 108 kgs, and he looks the same, but he has brought down. So what basically the point here is that do we treat diabetes as a metabolic disease or an is an allergen? What do we call it?
So that's very encouraging.
Yeah.
So I'm going to change direction a little bit. So I've had two people in my family in my distant family who had chronic kidney disease on dialysis, and they are both prescribed probiotics called Loban. Basically, the idea being that it reduces blood urea nitrogen. So I'm going to ask Dr. Shashikaran for a regulatory viewpoint on this, and I'll ask the clinicians what they feel about this.
Now, as far as food regulation is concerned, it will have no involvement as far as clinical management is concerned. Now, for example, if
this product is sold,
let's say CKD,
product, yes.
now probiotics is advised for chronic kidney disease as an advantage, then it will go under a category of food for special medical purposes, okay, or food for special dietary uses. Under the food for special medical purposes, you need a physician's prescription to prescribe that food, which actually has probiotics in that. But if you want it to be of a generic nature, let us say people who have borderline kidney disease or something, and if it helps, they should be able to buy off the shelf. Then it comes in another category called foods for special dietary uses, where the label does not, the food does not require any prescription, but it says it is meant for a specific health condition. So there are that kind of category. The general category, of course, it cannot make any kind of a mention that it is meant for a disease. So the moment you say that food is meant for a disease or meant to treat or prevent a disease, it goes under the drug regulation. So there is a thin line between the probiotics going into the drug or coming into the food, and everything depends upon the intention for use.
Dr. Balla, you have any comments on that?
From a clinical standpoint, there are several situations in clinical practice, both adult and pediatric, where even if they are immunosuppressants, you can still go ahead and use probiotics. But I would try to understand and use it with caution, because it can be sometimes a double-edged sword, especially if there's immunosuppression going on for some time. Choosing the right probiotic strain in the right situation would be important, probably.
I think probiotics, I have the other issue about what is available in the market and what is the actual content in it. So lots of times it's just a placebo. The claimed value is 6.5 billion spores. You check it, it's not even 65,000. So whatever he's receiving, it may or may not be working. But for CKD patients, I have a thing that in our country where they're using PPIs, which are available over the counter, why are we trying to regulate a probiotic, which is almost harmless? We'll have to focus more on that part. And probiotics are not going to do any harm unless a person, like Sarat said, is immunocompromised and using spores which may cause a problem. But even in trials for IgA nephropathy, they have used probiotics in very high values, and they've had the safety profile was absolutely good. So there's no issue there. So specifically for your patient, the way you said, it's very, very safe. But for what it is being given, I don't know. It's not going to reverse the CKD. It may help in preventing in our tropical country diarrheas, or it may improve the immune system, but I really don't know how it will be effective. So specifically, IgA nephropathy, there are some places, there are trials, but nothing more than that, which I know.
Yeah, but the point is per se, immunosuppression itself is not a contraindication to using probiotics. Several liver and kidney transplant recipients have been receiving probiotics also.
So the other thing that we are all faced with, we heard about a little bit about it today, and probably I should wind it up with this after this, is that aging is probably one of the last frontiers eventually, right? So what do you think about how probiotics are going to be used to allow us to age gracefully? Any of you?
I think if you look at the mechanism of action of probiotics, they work everywhere. And if you link diseases, like she mentioned 300 diseases, I'll add another 50 more. There would be, it's whether it's a cause or whether it's a result, but the microbiome is not so great. And as you age, there is a decrease in level of, about bifidobacterium keeps going down. So there would be, scientifically, if you were to provide, there will be protection, there will be health, which will be better. I'm not talking about just gastrointestinal disorders. There will be cardiovascular health, mental health, neurological disorders. Everywhere it's going to be of great help. And using probiotics should be part of it. It should be, I feel, Yakult, I'm not going to name, should be part of a breakfast meal. It should be given elderly or anybody who is in that age group, which should be taken. So there is absolutely no harm and it should be used.
And may I just add that the current ecosystem with respect to our lives, and particularly in India, whether it's poisons in our food or whether it is modified food or it's the air, the pollution and the other toxic load of medication itself, I think the role of probiotics becomes even more critical.
In fact, the whole science evolved with Mechnikov's observation of a population which was eating a lot of fermented products and living up to a ripe old age.
And I also would connect with the area of longevity of life, where the putrefying bacteria load was less, those who were consuming the fermented food. And through the probiotics, we can actually look the two aspects. One is keeping the gut health better, and immunomodulation, where the anti-inflammatory cytokines are produced more and pro-inflammatory are reduced. So we will not sick, or we will not be actually susceptible to any lifestyle diseases.
All right. I think we've come to the end of this panel discussion. Just maybe if there's a comment or two from the audience, anybody has any questions to the panelists?
Probably also, Dr. Ramakrishnan, an institution like PGI, which is respected and recognized by the government and by the country, can take on such initiatives like fermented foods, which Dr. Prakash mentioned, and Dr. Tamang has been repeatedly talking about it, functional foods, fermented foods, clinical trials with that, which is also locally relevant and relevant to the country. So it's much easier to initiate such a trial in an institution where there's a system in place. Thank you.
Yes, Dr. Bindu.
Regulation for probiotics based diet or supplements and stuff like that. They haven't done any approval for this kind of a product. I'm talking about FD or EMA.
You say that there need not be any regulation for probiotics?
They say on their website, if you visit, they say that because there are a lot of questions being put whether probiotics, prebiotics, or a combination of that requires regulatory approval from FDA. They say no, FDA doesn't recommend any I mean, it's outside the domain. Maybe some way, the way nutraceuticals are done with it.
Yeah, in fact, as far as our country is concerned, the probiotics and prebiotics both are under the nutraceutical regulation only. And the thing is, even when regulated, we have lot of fake products in the market.
Yes.
as Ajay Balla mentioned, the dose of bacteria present in a serve should be useful for the consumer. So if the dose is not
FSSAI stamp, no, that product has FSSAI stamp. That's what I'm saying. FDA or any regulatory body doesn't recommend, but there are a lot of other loopholes which are present. So it's very good to say that this is good, this is bad, but what exactly is available in the market? Is that good? Is that regulated? It was just, an innocuous question that I had in mind.
because FDA's policy is a manufacturer of any supplement or a nutraceutical need not establish its efficacy. He only has to establish safety. So FDA is not even interested whether these supplements are working, do they work, etc., unless you make a claim. Whereas in India, the thing is there is a regulation, and in spite of regulation, we find there are a lot of lacunae, and we have a lot of products in the market claiming quite a bit and not having the sufficient amount of the particular probiotic which they are mentioning. So if it's unregulated, at least our country's environment, it will create quite a lot of problems.
It is. Yeah.
Just to
Dr.
add, in
Shashikar?
US, the FDA has got probiotics separately, and the rest are called LBP, or live biotherapeutic products. So LBPs are prescribed. They can be prescribed as clinical trials or as per the level of evidence based on that. So there are some products which doctors can prescribe, which will be given only, and these are LBPs grouped as that. Most probiotics are treated separately only as food supplements or food additives. So that's why the FDA regulation is slightly different.
Dr. Shashikaran, despite so many years of talking about probiotics, India, we still have this one question, that is curd a probiotic? I'm taking curd or any traditional fermented food, then why do I need probiotics? That is one thing. And secondly, I don't know how many people are really aware about strain-specific health benefits of probiotics. So we see a lot of products in the Indian market. Of course, FSSAI has a regulatory framework, but nevertheless, we see probiotic ice cream, lactobacillus curd. They normally do not mention the strain of bacteria and sometimes not even the species of the bacteria. So would you like to just kind of throw light on the difference between your curd and fermented foods and probiotics, and also about the strain-specific health benefits of probiotics?
Of course, the curd is, what is marketed as curd, etc., unless they make a claim that it has probiotic benefit, then they need to follow the regulation saying that, how many bacteria, etc., are there. But you also find a whole lot of curds which don't make any such claims. So that is fine. But of course, it's a misconception that curd naturally contain probiotic bacteria. That, of course, only education or spread of knowledge will help. Now, as far as this strain specificity, the FSSAI has not given importance that whoever is manufacturing should mention the strain if it is claiming a particular effect, because most of the health benefits are going to be strain specific. Just mentioning the genus or phyla is not required. There's one more problem also, is that you should not it says not meant for children below 5 years, between 2 and 5. And when we know that the gut health is as important for infants and from the time they are born, and there is no reason why probiotics should be considered not to be recommended to children unless there's a medical prescription. That is one more error which has happened in that particular.
Actually, our conversation, we are always doing it in a very wrong way. What the regulators do, they set up a standard, and the standard is maintained. But essentially, any regulation will not change people's mind. The communication and advocacy is actually the tool which will make people make a choice and choose appropriately. So this is something all guys should do, that inform public properly, try to make them believe what kind of science we have. If we have that kind of a language which they understand, not kind of a language we were speaking here. Nobody will understand that. But so if we can make it understandable, then it will start working. And in Indian tradition, we should never badmouth curd. Even bull, even the Mechnikov and others didn't badmouth curd. Curd is a healthy food. So we need not say that it is a probiotic based food or whatever. It's a healthy food. So and we have a lot of tradition. Don't take curd in the night. Don't take this and that. So we need to communicate properly. I have one question to Dr. Balla and one comment. Like what we were saying, Dr. Ramakrishna, that 25 years they changed. My list is different. Velcro, the Quartz watch, which does navigation, but one of the things which is with the probiotic, green bananas longevity, because this is now in all probiotic food. So whether it was Taiwanese, whether it is India, whether it is Chennai, wherever you go, this is one of the major, because green banana was always the longevity of the green banana is what actually has made the difference. So this is very important for the probiotic-based diet compositions. And Dr. Bhalla, whether you give colonic infusion or whether you give it through small intestine, if it is liver and liver-based diseases, it is given through small intestine. It is not given through colon.
No, I was talking about use in ulcerative colitis. Severe acute ulcerative
colitis, of course, colon.
Yeah.
With that, I think we'll. So there's just one question. One last question.
This was a very, very interesting session. I really enjoyed the session. I have one question to Dr. Prakash Halami. Are postbiotics better than probiotics or at par? Number one. Number two, have safety studies been done? Dr. Prakash?
Sir, yeah, quite interesting. Which I think two side of the same coin. Probiotic has the advantage of its storage, as well as the transportation and the actual efficacy, where we can actually use only that active component and then take care. Once we probiotics, then viability is the issue. Then shelf life. So from that angle, I think postbiotics, once it is characterized, demonstrated the health benefit, one should go with that, with the postbiotic. Of course, now few examples which I have told here, which are commercially available, the safety issue has been worked out. Now the new molecule, once it is developed, its safety and efficacy has to be evaluated.
Actually, people are not aware about postbiotics. We have to create more awareness amongst the people.
Yeah, to some extent, just now related to postbiotic, we in fact have in the ILSIS the group, a working group about this postbiotic, where we had a discussion on this aspect. And now traditionally we will be consuming actually the postbiotic through the fermented food, which are actually cooked or pickled, but pickle actually bacteria will be live. But Professor Tamang knows most of this fermented food we actually cook. After fermentation, we cook or sun dry. So they will be the postbiotic product.
Yes, idli will have postbiotics because it is lysed. But anyway, just continuing the discussion what Dr. Ganguly said. No, at FSSI, see, this is a body which you have to frame a standards, and they will see that the standards are met. Now, what we have at present is simply guidelines that you can have this disease. And if it comes that this genus and species is required, then the sample which will be taken by FSS food safety officer will check for that species only, nothing more than that. So please don't expect much in that. If you want to become more precise, it's a responsibility of the society and the stakeholders who are using it to give feedback to FSSI. See, the panel is 5-6 members who are sitting there. Probably they may not be having this. So it is better that we write to CEO FSSI that we want it like this. And these things are very seriously discussed, because I am also there in panel since last 6 years, and we have lack of information. All the people sitting are, they're not really experts. So let those clinicians who prescribe and whatever difficulty they face should be brought to the notice of the CEO FSSI, maybe by email or maybe later. This is my appeal. Thank you.
Can I just suggest? Actually, the probiotic is an organism. It may be a bacterium, it may be a fungus, it may be yeast. So postbiotic is the effect, the products, the compounds. It is mostly the micromolecules, mostly the biotic compound, immunomodulators, vitamins, short fatty acid chain, and so many others, which have got so much health benefit. That is the difference. Now the probiotics are also very important for the gut, the modulations. The final product is the metabolites. Mostly in the metabolites is the end product of metabolism. So there are two types of metabolites. One is secondary, one is primary, which is amino acid, fatty acid, and all. Then another is the secondary metabolites, untargeted. These are very important. These are the micromolecules. They can go to each compartment of any cell. So now the scientists are mostly concentrated on that. Now regarding the probiotic regulation, Professor Ganguly sir and his team have already made a guidelines a long time by the ICMR, the DVT. But a lot of things have been changed and all. Now the FSSI has come with it. There are 25 scientific panels. In that, there is no probiotic panel. Though I'm a chairman of the alcoholic panel, Daruka chairman. Daruka chairman bana diya. So there in the thing, the regulation comes in the nutraceutical. So nutraceutical, we have already raised in the scientific committee. Why not you have the separate panel on the either Indian food, Amara Ayurved Ahar, Indian food or fermented food, and there you have the regulations, the clinical regulations, the probiotics and everything. Now we are demanding, now it is under thing, it has not been revised and all. Now what Dr. Sarath has said that, any bacterium which is claimed as a thing has a certain scientific the guidelines. It is called the food grade. The food grade organisms has to go for the several tests. One is the in vitro, as what Dr. Sasikaran, the Ramakrishna and Sasikaran has said that. Of course, the Professor Ganguly also said that in vitro, there are so many tests that includes the multi-omics also. But that is a in vitro, all the, the proteomics, transcriptomics, the metabolomics, lipidomics, and all these things and all. There are so many tests also. Then then very important test is the whole genome sequence. Because in the whole genome sequence, we got an entire, you can annotate the entire map of the biomarkers and all. And there, one of the very important is the anti-AMR, the gene, the AMR gene, whether it is present or not, the virulence effect is present or not, that is passed. Then after that, very important, another is the in vivo, animal models. And animal models, there are two types. One is the acute toxicity, which is just 7 to 10 days. And another is the subchronic of 3 months, where you have to do the both male and the female and test it. Then after that, only the human clinical trial, which we have not done, and we do not have any guidelines at all. In Japan and Korea, I visited, they have in Chumbuk, in the Chumbuk National Hospital University, they have a very good center for the functional food, where they have a clinical trial. I was there as a 3 months as a visiting professor. They fit the fermented food of there, and they are 100-bedded room, and they do all the volunteer subjects.
I think we'll have to call
These are
this
not
off
there.
now. We are running.
No,
late.
my
We'll stop
suggestion,
now.
what is the, I think we can start this in the
Yeah.
PGIMR.
During lunch,
We
we
can
can
start
do
it.
that.
Thank you.
So thank you very much to the panelists for these discussions, I think we'll conclude this session.